What if someone could sell you a house that they didn't own? A house that had already been sold to someone else? And by the time you realized what happened, your entire life savings was already gone. In early 2023, a man named Ethan Walker was doing something millions of Americans were doing at the time. He was trying to buy his first home. Ethan lived in Phoenix, Arizona, and he worked as a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property management company. He wasn't rich, but he had spent years saving carefully. For almost a decade, he had lived in small apartments, always telling himself that one day he would finally own a place that belonged to him. By the time he turned 35, he had managed to save just over $40,000. It wasn't enough to buy a house outright, but it was enough for a down payment. For Ethan, that money represented years of discipline, overtime shifts, and saying no to things other people enjoyed. Like most buyers, Ethan started his search online. Every night after work, he would sit at his kitchen table with his laptop and scroll through listings. Houses in Phoenix were expensive, and the good ones seemed to disappear quickly. Sometimes he would find something promising, but by the time he contacted the seller, it had already been sold. After a few months of searching, Ethan started to feel frustrated. It seemed like every good opportunity vanished before he even had a chance to see the property. Then one evening, he saw a listing that looked different. It was a 3-bedroom house located in Mesa, Arizona. The price was noticeably lower than most houses in that area, but it wasn't so low that it looked suspicious. The photos looked professional. The kitchen had recently been renovated. The backyard had a small covered patio, and the house appeared to be in good condition. Ethan read the description carefully. The listing said the owner was relocating out of state and wanted to sell the property quickly. Instead of a real estate agent, the listing included a phone number and email address for the owner directly. Ethan sent a message asking if the property was still available. The reply arrived the next morning. The seller introduced himself as Andrew Collins. He explained that he had recently moved to another state for a new job and was hoping to finalize the sale as soon as possible. Andrew said he was currently living in Denver, Colorado, which made it difficult for him to meet buyers in person. However, he said the house was vacant and Ethan could drive by any time to see the exterior of the property. He also offered to send additional photos and a video walkthrough. Ethan appreciated how quickly the seller responded. Andrew's emails were polite and professional. Within a few hours, Ethan received several additional photos and a short video showing the inside of the house. The rooms looked exactly like the listing pictures. The floors were clean, the walls were freshly painted, and the kitchen appliances looked almost new. Nothing about the video seemed unusual. That weekend, Ethan drove to Mesa to look at the property from the outside. The house was located on a quiet street with other well-maintained homes. The yard looked empty, just like Andrew had described. Ethan walked along the sidewalk and looked through one of the front windows. Inside, he could see an empty living room and what looked like a dining area. Everything matched the photos he had seen online. Standing there in front of the house, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt during months of searching. For the first time, he could actually imagine living there. When Ethan contacted Andrew again, the seller said there had already been several people asking about the property. He explained that because he was relocating for work, he didn't want the process to drag on for months. He was looking for a serious buyer who could move forward quickly. The price he was asking for the house was slightly below the average for that neighborhood, but Andrew said that was intentional. He wanted the property sold quickly so he could focus on settling into his new job. Ethan spent the next few days thinking about the decision. Buying a house was the biggest financial move he had ever considered, but every part of the situation seemed reasonable. The house looked real, the seller's explanation made sense, and the price, while lower than average, was still within a believable range. Eventually, Ethan told Andrew he wanted to move forward with the purchase. Andrew responded by saying the next step would be sending an earnest money deposit. This was a normal part of many real estate transactions in the United States. Buyers often send a deposit to a title company or escrow service to show they are serious about purchasing the property.
That deposit is usually applied toward the final purchase price during closing. Andrew said he was working with a title company in Arizona that would handle the paperwork. He sent Ethan a purchase agreement along with wiring instructions for the deposit. The documents looked official. The title company listed on the paperwork had a website and an office address in Arizona. Ethan even searched the company online and saw that it appeared to be a legitimate business. After reviewing everything for 2 days, Ethan went to his bank and authorized the wire transfer. He sent $35,000 to the account listed in the instructions. That money represented nearly everything he had saved over the past 8 years. When Ethan emailed Andrew confirming the transfer, the seller replied quickly. He thanked Ethan for moving forward and said the title company would begin preparing the closing documents. According to Andrew, the process would probably take 2 to 3 weeks. At first, everything seemed to move normally, but then small delays started appearing. A few days later, Andrew said the title company needed additional time to verify certain documents. Ethan wasn't too concerned because delays were common in real estate transactions. A week later, Andrew said the title officer responsible for the file was temporarily unavailable. Another few days passed, and Andrew mentioned that the company was waiting for confirmation from the county records office. Ethan tried to stay patient. He told himself that complicated paperwork often took time. But something started to bother him. Every update came directly from Andrew, not from the title company itself. After about 3 weeks, Ethan decided to drive by the house again. He wanted to look at the property one more time while waiting for the closing date. But when he arrived on the street, something didn't look the same. There was a moving truck parked in the driveway. 2 people were carrying furniture into the house. Ethan parked his car and walked toward them, assuming they might be contractors or cleaners preparing the home before the sale. When he asked what they were doing there, the man unloading the truck looked confused. He said his family had just purchased the house and was moving in that day. For a moment, Ethan thought there must be some misunderstanding. He explained that he was also in the process of buying the property. But the man shook his head and said the sale had already been completed through a real estate agent 2 weeks ago. The words hit Ethan like a shock. Immediately, he stepped away and called Andrew. The phone rang several times before going to voicemail. He tried again. No answer. Then he sent an email asking what was happening. The message was never answered. That was the moment Ethan realized something had gone terribly wrong. The next morning, he contacted the title company listed in the paperwork. The receptionist checked their system and said they had no record of any transaction under Ethan Walker's name. They had never received a deposit from him, and no one named Andrew Collins was working with them. Within minutes, the reality became clear. The documents Ethan had received were fake. The wiring instructions were fake, and the person he had been communicating with was not the owner of the house. The real property had already been sold weeks earlier to a completely different family. Ethan had sent his entire savings to someone who never owned the house at all. When Ethan reported the incident with his bank, they explained that wire transfers are extremely difficult to reverse once the money has been moved. By the time the fraud was discovered, the funds had already been transferred through several different accounts. Investigators later explained how the scam most likely worked. The scammer probably found the original real estate listing months earlier when the house was still on the market. They copied the photos and property details and created their own fake listing. Then they waited until the real house was sold and the property became temporarily vacant during the transition between owners. During that time, victims could drive by and see an empty house, which made the scam more convincing. By pretending to be the owner who had moved to another state, the scammer avoided meeting buyers in person. All communication happened through email and phone calls. The fake documents and title company information made the transaction look legitimate, and the request for a wire transfer allowed the scammer to move the money quickly before the victim realized what had happened. Ethan eventually filed reports with local police and federal investigators, but recovering the money proved almost impossible. The account that received the wire transfer had been emptied within hours. The funds had moved through several other accounts, making it extremely difficult to track where they ultimately ended up. In the end, Ethan lost nearly everything he had spent years saving. Real estate investigators say scams like this have been increasing across the United States. Criminals no longer need to break into houses to steal money. Sometimes, all they need is access to public property listings, stolen photos, and someone who believes they are speaking to the real owner.